Welcome to the Growth Shift. I'm David Zilstra. Here's what I've learned after years in business. Every leader who's built something meaningful has a story, but the moment they had to shift, when failure forced innovation, when change became opportunity, when they chose growth over comfort. On this show, we dive into those pivotal moments, the setbacks that became breakthroughs, the strategic shifts that accelerated growth, and the frameworks that turn obstacles into opportunities. Because here's the truth. In a world where change is the only constant, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who've learned to shift strategically through it. So whether you're facing your own pivot point or just want to learn from someone who's been there, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Valentix. At Valentix, we help coaches and consultants who are struggling with generating consistent, high-quality leads, automating their client onboarding processes, and scaling their operations without simply adding more hours or headcount. Most of the time, our clients come to us frustrated because they're bogged down in manual tasks and feel like they're missing out on the power of modern technology. But with the right strategy and AI-powered solutions, they're able to streamline their workflows, attract better opportunities, and achieve sustainable growth. If that sounds like you or someone you know, learn more at Valentix. Now let's dive into today's episode. On the Growth Shift today, we're joined by Mark Krajnik, a seasoned HR executive with over 3 decades of experience in talent acquisition, management, and development. Mark is the founder of Performance Mindset Associates, where he serves as an executive and founder coach, fractional chief human resources officer, and motivational speaker. After a significant and unexpected pivot from a high-level corporate role, Mark is now passionately focused on helping businesses build people-first, high-performance cultures and strategically integrate AI into their talent strategies. Mark, welcome to the Growth Shift.
David, thanks for having me.
Mark, with 32 years in the HR umbrella, you've seen immense change in the world of talent. Can you take us back to the earlier stages of your career? What initially drew you to talent acquisition, and what were some of those foundational principles you developed about people and culture that still guide your work today?
Yeah, and that's a great segue to kind of where it all started. I graduated from Occidental College in Los Angeles. I immediately got into the LA law scene. I was going to be a high-powered attorney and litigator, and that was my passion at the time. So I worked for a law firm, the top 2 floors of the Wells Fargo Towers in downtown LA, and after a year, decided that this is not for me, and I enjoy people. So I made the pivot to working in talent acquisition and executive search back in the early 90s. And that's kind of where my career started and blossomed ever since.
Amazing. I mean, like making that shift from legal into into recruiting, essentially. I mean, a lot of people might be hearing that, thinking, well, as a lawyer, it's almost like you're taking a step back down or a step backwards. I mean, how did that feel to you? Because obviously being in the legal field wasn't right for you and you wanted to be working with people more, but were there any other challenges that you went through, even internally or mentally, making that change?
Yeah, there were, because, you want status, and especially as someone, I got a full ride. I passed up Stanford, went to Columbia University my freshman year, transferred to Occidental College, played football and baseball in college, and was very competitive and learned a lot from team sports throughout my life as well. But when I decided to move into more of the HR and the people side of things, I found that it was a hand-in-glove fit with what I wanted to do, because what motivated me, and I discovered this through different iterations, was the ability to help others achieve their professional goals. And by being an executive recruiter at the time, in my 20s, I was able to take people that are stuck or in a role that just wasn't right for them, or a culture that wasn't right for them, and put them into a better situation for them and their families and their careers. And so I really embraced the talent acquisition. Then I led into talent management and talent development as I progressed my career in HR.
And what did that career hold for you in HR? I mean, where did it really ultimately lead?
So to where I am today, so I look back on the years, and I had the privilege of holding leadership roles with several global organizations that really were at the top of their industries. I mean, Amazon and Amazon Web Services was the most recent, Lowe's companies, the headquarters in Mooresville, North Carolina, Korn Ferry out in Beverly Hills, Manpower Group up in Milwaukee, Kelly Services in Novi, Michigan. These are global name brands, and I was a leader with each one of them. In fact, at Kelly Services, I was the first iteration, if you will, of what is now today Kelly Executive, and that's the executive search part of a staffing company. My mindset's always been one of loyalty, performance, and results, David. And it really is one of those things where wherever I am, I truly believe that, be where you are, and give 100% of both your mind and your efforts to produce worthwhile results in any role in any organization you're part of.
So, I mean, ultimately that led to some pretty big positions for you. You're mentioning Amazon and AWS as well. I mean, what happened at the end of your career here? I'm kind of curious what ultimately led you to starting out on your own. That's a lot of people might be sitting there thinking, you're working for Amazon, life must be perfect. Why would you want to make a change?
Well, I tell you, David, it wasn't the plan. The plan was to retire with all of my restricted stock units and live in some tropical place for the rest of my adult life. But that wasn't in the cards. So I guess this leads me to that entrepreneurial pivot moment in my career where it led me to where I am today. And it really started in the summer of 23, quite unexpectedly. I was a senior leader within Amazon and Amazon Web Services, or AWS, and I was serving Amazon and its day one culture for 4 years, and it wasn't easy. It was a grind. It was tough. It was a lot of hours and a lot of challenges and overcome. But the idea was through those challenges, it made me realize the amount of courage and resilience and discipline and grit that I had to have. And I have those attributes that I could bring forward to other people. So I guess, I can get into kind of how it evolved to where I am today, but that was a very unexpected time because I really felt like I found my people. I was doing great, and it was a wonderful opportunity and great people to work with.
So, you had an unexpected exit from Amazon and, you started it on your own, right? That was that most impactful or pivotal moment for you into entrepreneurship. What helped form, your strengths or your state of mind, the direction that you were going with that change as well? Because that's a pretty tumultuous experience, right? Leaving a high-level executive role, starting out on your own, and all of a sudden going from being a somebody with all of the resources available to, almost a nobody with having to make your own name and bring together your own resources. What are some of the challenges that you were facing initially?
Yeah, I was going to say that the name, the notoriety, the credibility, all those things kind of go back to square one, because if you think about LinkedIn as a tool, people are attracted to you when you're at high level roles with big name brands. But when you're the solopreneur or you're the person chasing people to try to sell your wares or educate people and drive your credibility, it's a lot of crickets out there, right? There's not a lot of people that are, answering your in-mails or your calls or whatever it might be. So it was kind of a reality check, right? If I go back to the moment, I think the setup of that is important because I mentioned how loyal I was and I was focused on performance and results. But within Amazon, they have an annual performance review in the first quarter of each year for last year's performance, and they deliver those results to all the employees in April. And I was on a 152-person global team with AWS, worked on a lot of different countries with some amazing people and great leaders and just really was connected. And for me, it was kind of the apex, if you will, of my career because it was the number one company at the time and we had great people. In fact, in that role, I led the team with 75% diversity hires. And back in those days, in the COVID days, that was a big to-do goal for all organizations. I filled 31 of 32 executive search assignments over 2 years, so almost very high percentage fill. I reduced the time to fill from 6 months to 2 months on the executive stage, which was unheard of at the time, but it was through my skills and my tenure and my abilities and my expertise. And I brought in voice of the customer and employee engagement programs and worked, and I was a certified leadership mentor and certified facilitator. So I kind of had it all, right? I was at the top of the top. So in April 23, my direct manager provided me with the results of my annual performance. Operating, maximum percentage increase for salary, hundreds of future vesting restricted stock units, and a promotion to the next level, which is hard to do internally, that would take place in August, right? So just a few more months, we're just preparing for that. Let's just say I was humbled, honored, excited, right? I felt valued. I felt appreciated. I felt respected. I was recognized for the accomplishments and impact that I made on my team. And then AWS and really Amazon as a whole was facing economic headwinds based on what I look back on as poor overhiring decisions during a global pandemic, right? And they hired everybody remote, and they had all these, great plans, but they were $2 trillion at the time. And the series of voluntary and mandatory layoffs were happening, swirling all around you, right? So it's very uncertain. Despite the turbulence, David, and kind of a new toxicity that came from that uncertainty, I stayed positive. I was verbally assured by my boss, my skip level, that nothing to worry about, just keep going, business as usual. In fact, my skip level leader, I should say, sent me a message saying that you're phenomenal in today's meeting, your energy, engagement, positivity is amazing in everything you do. I so admire and learn from you each day. I appreciate everything you do. So with that and my direct manager's promotion and all the things, I felt supported. I was confident. I kind of let my guard down. I believed in loyalty and I was, content with my place, right? I was in my comfort zone. I was content. And I truly felt like I finally found my people, as I mentioned earlier, and it was so fulfilling until it wasn't. Wah, wah, wah. So I got this obscure email, completely blindsided, almost like Survivor. You get voted off the island, like, I thought we were friends. It was a Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. exactly, and just a few weeks after my amazing performance review and accolades from my director, I received a generic email. The worst you can get, right? It's from HR, someone I've never met, stating that my position was eliminated, effective immediately. It wasn't like,
Wow.
we got 2 weeks. They gave severance and all that. That was fine. But really, it was where I was going to be. I was going to retire from here. This was my spot, right? So it took resilience, let's just say that. That was the moment, my pivot moment. I didn't realize it at that exact moment that was the pivot moment for me, but that's because I was overwhelmed and absorbed in mostly the negative emotions of the circumstance that I found myself in that I wasn't expecting, right? It was complete blindside, and it was really a reality kick in the teeth. I mean, that's the best way to put it. It was very visceral. And although it was a business decision, it certainly felt personal to me. Because I was at the top. I was doing the best. I had the most experience on the team. I had the most accomplishments, and I had the most new programs within this global powerhouse. And for all of the effort and knowledge and contributions and time and achievements and plans and ambitions and loyalties, it all went down the drain just in that moment, right? So it took a minute, okay, weeks, but it took some time. And then I picked myself up off the floor, not literally, but kind of mentally, and decided that I have gifts to give. I can bring certainty to business. I can use common sense. I can close gaps in culture, in people, in talent, processes, and process programs that HR needs within organizations. So the idea of, kind of the mental stress and pressure to then say, you know what? And by the way, I applied to maybe 400 positions in that month or so after to say, well, I'm top of my game. Everybody's going to, go to Microsoft. I'll go to Google. Everybody was in that same technology downturn, right? So there was nowhere to go. But the idea is, it was scary. It was unknown, but it was also kind of a blessing in disguise. I think the best way
Hard
to
to
put
see at
it.
the time, though, definitely. I mean, you had the rug pulled out from under you. I mean, it must have felt soul crushing at the time. I mean, like you said, you were at the top of your game. You were getting top performance reviews, a raise, a promotion, right? I mean, you were even getting feedback from your colleagues that, you're so positive. You inspire me. You motivate me. Every single day I'm learning from you, right? But through this all, I mean, you said something earlier that I think really probably played a pretty big role in your ability to move forwards, right? Positivity, right? Now with PMA, Performance Mindset Associates, which is a clever play on words for positive mental attitude for those of you who might not have picked up on that. But Mark, PMA, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing, because it sounds like some problems and shortcomings and pains that you experienced with AWS. Now those are problems that you solve for your clients with PMA, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, PMA. So I identified during that time of self-discovery and reflection and kind of picking up the pieces and figuring out the next steps that there's a definite gap around leadership development within organizations. I guess a lack of attention around organizational cultural development or work environment or culture development. I saw poor communication skills from many leaders. Maybe they were prematurely promoted or not ready to take on people leadership roles. And then a lack of common sense around making business decisions. So I kind of use that as the catapult to push myself to create and start Performance Mindset Associates. And so, I thought to myself that I've been performing at a high level around people, talent, and culture for 3 decades, and I've been with some of the world's top organizations. So why not put my skills, expertise, experience, knowledge to work to help others improve their business outcomes? And as you mentioned, and I think this is exactly my thought process. You nailed it, David. One of my superpowers has always been unrelenting optimism. I work backwards from positive mental attitude, or PMA, to create the name of my company, my human resources consulting company. So I created Performance Mindset Associates, PMA, to help organizations unlock human potential. And the idea is there are really 3 delivery methods that I use, usually startups and SMB enterprises. The first is, as you mentioned, the intro is fractional Chief Human Resource Officer services, where I become aligned with the C-suite. I'm in their board meetings. I focus on aligning HR strategies to overall goals and visions of the organization and to drive performance, mostly around talent acquisition, learning and development, culture, and performance management. And then secondly is that one-on-one, and I call it, everybody says executive coaching. I like founder coaching better. The founders, the people that started, the people that had the idea, the vision to bring this to fruition. I love becoming a trusted advisor to those individuals and help the growth and awareness around critical leadership skills, teaching people how to lead by example and explore programs and processes that can enhance the people, talent, and culture strategies. By the way, that's the core of every organization. And then lastly, the motivational speaking engagement. I started in 2004. I kind of crossed from a senior human capital consultant within the CDI Corporation into a performance development trainer, if you will, on stage. And I turned that into kind of the start of my motivational speaking career. But those are to drive skills, awareness, and performance to the next level through either, the customized or bespoke performance development or transformational talks. So my ability to enable, inspire, and motivate others comes from my passion for business success and outcomes, my standards of excellence, lessons learned, because there's plenty of those, and really just being authentic. That's kind of how I see things. And so that's the delivery of PMA and how I impact companies.
Amazing. So, unlocking human potential and building high performance teams with founder coaching as well. Do you have any stories that you could share with us for, how it is you've maybe impacted one of your clients?
Yeah. So I've been in front of, I guess groups from 8 to 500, right? And so the more intimate groups, there's more impact because you see it, the aha moments, and you share. And the way I interact with people, whether it's on stage or in a boardroom or in a smaller group, it's always about them. It's not about me. I don't talk about my football career, which is kind of lined on my walls behind me. I don't talk about the business successes as much as skills, habits, and really attitudes and behaviors that drive positive results. So my whole goal with doing this is to help them become more aware and develop key skills to achieve their professional goals, whatever they are. And so with that, there's organizations that I've aligned with, and one in particular, I work with the CEO of a technology startup here in Florida, and they didn't have their core values. They didn't even have a vision for the organization, but they had a strong global technical team. They had a good marketing component, and they were very unique in this AI CRM in the legal practice, in the legal marketplace. And so I came in kind of as a fractional CHRO and established their 6 core values, created their vision, created their their mission statement, created their value proposition, and brought the community, the global community, 10 different countries, by the way, together. And then I created the internal communication mechanisms to keep everybody updated so no one was left out. Everybody felt part of something bigger than just themselves. And the end result is the company's kind of gone from red scaling to black. They're not quite there yet, but we're making incredible strides globally, mostly in North America. But the sales of both their MSP services and their CRM AI services is scaling quite well.
Incredible, incredible. Mark, I'm kind of curious here as well. So you've had a great impact with this company and you're making great strides, right? Still working with them, it sounds like as well. For any of our audience who might be curious about how it is you can land such a high value client that you can have so much impact with, if you were in the position where, you're right back at the beginning, you had no clients and you had no relationships to work off of, what would your approach be for landing some clients like this that you can have impact with in today's world?
So, I'll look at LinkedIn first because that's kind of an obvious answer. But even though I have just under 17,000 first connections on LinkedIn and I've been in the top 1% of global LinkedIn profiles viewed, my reliance only on LinkedIn has limited my outreach and new client acquisition. So the idea is you need partners. You need to gain and garner resources to help you get to where you want to be. So you find organizations, not just, me trying to do everything myself, but find other people that are experts in areas that you don't either have competency in or you don't have time to them to scale your business. So I post quotes every Wednesday and Friday and answer and repost people's quotes quite often on LinkedIn. I've joined LinkedIn groups. I write articles probably every other week on LinkedIn around people first culture and retention-based processes and building of high-performance work teams. And this is all to drive awareness and thought leadership around that people, talent, and culture piece that I've been an expert in for, it's garnered, but over 30 years, right? And I found that that's not enough, right? So you need those resources, you need those new partnerships, you need to understand the value that other people can bring to you when you're trying to scale your business.
Amazing. So, spoken like a true CEO, a true executive, outsource it, right? Delegate. Find someone who can do it better, because usually it's the C grade students who are the C-suite execs, and it's the A grade students who are executing for them, right? Sounds like that might be something you look at as well. Mark, tell us a little bit more about what your goal is for PMA, where you're at right now, or not where you're at right now. Where is it you want to be? What's the long-term vision for impact, for scale, whatever it is that you're working towards?
Yeah, and so the thing that I'm most excited about is I've created the PMA Global Talent System, and it's kind of 3-phase, 9-module foundational HR processes and models around talent acquisition, around talent management, and around talent development. So those 3 key areas in HR. And so I'll have that completed this year, hopefully in the next month or so. It's just a process and getting that out. I've partnered with companies, speaking of resources and such, with Course Creator 360 and GrowthWorks to develop the scalable online system and then sell it, make it available to the greater global community. And it's borderless. So it doesn't matter what country you live in or where you're at. It could be anywhere around the world where you're taking these systems and these models. And I think in acronyms, right? Everything's always an acronym. So I've got the wisdom motivation model. I've got the orange carpet onboarding. And, those are 6 areas, that spells the word orange. Real goal achievement journey, which is REAL, which is different from SMART goals. It focuses on goal achievement, not goal setting. So there's 12 different models within these 9 modules and these 3 different phases to become self-sustained in HR for SMB and startups around the world. So that's the first thing. The second thing is really to help young adults and young entrepreneurs. And what I mean by that is anybody can benefit from it. But when I was in college and I had full rides, I didn't have to pay for college. I got to play sports there as a quarterback and having, some successes on the gridiron as well. But the reality of it is there was 8 areas that I didn't learn until I was in my 30s and 40s. And I share those. There's 8 specific skills that you need to perfect to enhance your career. So it's a Level Up to Success, the College to Career Playbook. That'll also be out this year. The other credibility pieces that we kind of started the conversation on when you're a solo or entrepreneur, I've got the final phases, right? This has been a work over 5 years in my head, right? But finally have it down on paper. I've got a couple, 2.5 chapters of a 13-chapter book called We-Centric, a new workplace model for culture, connection, impact, and community. So it's really developing your culture into a community through this process of being we-centric, opposite play on words of me-centric. And then I also have 26 episodes that I'll air of what's called the Apex Factor Pep Talk series, where PEP stands for Performance Enhancing Podcast. And it's going to be available on YouTube for the video part of it, but on audio for Spotify, iHeart, and Apple podcasts later this year. And they're just 10-minute micro podcast pep talks, David, that speak to you so you can help develop your own unique performance mindset. How resilience or preparation or discipline can impact your career, your success, or your family, right? And so those are things, they're just kind of like a coach talking at you. You're walking your dog, you're jogging, you're taking a run, you're just out at the grocery store. It's 10 minutes, right? So you listen to them and it will infuse this performance mindset into you. And really, I'm just trying to help people realize the gifts they have and how to use them more effectively. So those are kind of some of the projects. I am currently, and this is a recent addition, I'm an executive contributor. Hello. I'm an executive contributor to Brains Magazine, and it's a global online publication for business. It's brainsmagazine.com, and it's really expanded my audience because they have 3.5 million viewers. And I write about leadership, business, and mindset for them. There'll be an article, an interview kind of coming out soon as well on me, but really on what impact I'm looking to make on you. So those are some of the things from a scalable side.
Yeah, so Mark, this is a very well thought out plan, as anyone would expect from someone with your background, your knowledge, your skills, your credibility, your experience, and all of these things, right? But you're talking about making scale on a global level by, yes, providing value, resources, courses, and maybe taking a step back from one-on-one work so that you can really scale. But we're in a pretty crowded market these days, right? There's 1,000,001 Joe Schmoes out there who also want to release online courses, sit back and sip margaritas on the beach because, they want passive income, regardless of whether or not their course is good. What sort of challenges are you up against right now to really have impact like this on such a large scale?
Yeah, so it's awareness and credibility. So the book, We-Centric book, is my first. I've got 3 others in the outline form and manuscript stages. But that credibility of being a best-selling author helps with that, to avoid that anonymity, that ability to be seen and heard and read what's in my mind on paper, right? Whether it's an ebook or a hard copy book. So that's the first thing that I want to get done this year. So I want my first book out this year from that credibility standpoint. But it is very crowded. It's very noisy. There's a lot of people out there. So you have to just hone in on your avatar. So I use specific ideas of who I want to attract and the types of organizations that I feel I can make the biggest impact in. I could probably make an impact in any organization, but the biggest impact would be on the small, medium business or the startups that really don't have the people, talent, and culture competencies or exposure or experience. So I limit that to that world, that smaller world, to then identify folks that I can help. And if I can't help you now, maybe I can help you later. It's just a constant churn of putting yourself out there and moving forward.
Amazing. So, we're talking about deep dive here to hyper target who it is that you want to work with and really show them that you have what it takes to help them, right? There's a lot of tasks that you're managing right now. You're creating courses, you're creating a podcast, right? You're looking at scaling, but you have a bit of an advantage in your back pocket when it comes to AI now, don't you?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how it is you're starting to incorporate AI to allow you to operate at such a high level.
Yeah, so I see AI as a tool that I use quite frequently, and Copilot's probably my go-to, but I use ChatGPT and others to build on my ideas, on my creativity. AI fluency is extremely important for anybody, any business. But AI without humans is just code, right? So it's just the ones and zeros, right? So the idea is, for me, AI assists in the different offerings that I bring. So talent acquisition is one, David. So it helps screen and match, and it depends on the ATS system you have, because a lot of them use AI built in. But really, to screen and match to a specific role when I'm scaling for one of my clients, along with establishing the behavioral-based questions that fit their organizational goals and their vision and their culture, so that they can have the right type of questions to identify and attract the top talent. AI also assists in talent development, in professional development, in leadership development, to identify the latest trends, some materials that might be available that you're not aware of. And you give credit where credit's due all the time, but it saves so much time. And then finally, related to HR, which AI is kind of scary for HR because we're a people side of the business, you have to have responsible adoption, a people strategy, and support any change management programs through the use of current data and insights that AI can provide to you. But AI is an augmentation tool, not a replacement tool for people. Okay, it helps make us more efficient, saving time, coming up with newer ideas or creative ways. When I was titling my book, yes, I used AI to help me iterate through 5 or 6 ideas I had, and this is what I came up with. But currently, for the use of Performance Mindset Associates, I utilize AI to define my avatar that I just mentioned earlier, in support of daily client acquisition efforts. It also builds out visuals, mostly Copilot, by the way. That's the best one I found, for my LinkedIn quote posts, right? So the things you'll read, that these are my words, but they're visuals, right? They make these posts for me, and they look incredible. They're great. My daughter moved to Amsterdam last year, so I pull a lot of European streets and that kind of feel to it. But then also it helps me stay on top of industry trends, right? What's happening? Because I see myself as a thought leader around people, talent, and culture specifically, but also that it really brings up the trends and what's next and looking around corners for HR. So AI is definitely a tool that you should embrace and use on a regular basis.
Yeah, I love your take and your view on augmentation of AI with humans, right? It's synergy, because at the end of the day, business is people, business is relationships. It doesn't matter what you're selling, but it doesn't matter where within the business, whether it's your team, your employees, or your customers as well. It's all based off of relationships. Machines aren't selling to machines, at least yet anyway, and I hope it doesn't get there. But yeah, I mean, it's all a tool for providing more, not for, taking away, let's say. Mark, if we look at, your experience in HR, right? And just the sheer amount of time you've spent in that world. With a new technology such as AI, coming into emergence, what do you feel is going to, or how do you feel it is going to have the biggest impact on HR across the globe?
Yeah, and that's a 4-hour conversation, David. But I think just to sum up that idea is, remember that it's a people first, retention based culture organization you want to build. So using AI for policies, for the different types of segments within HR, performance development is another one. When you have your annual performance reviews, they can help you define both the questions and the responses to those questions and rank your talent for you, right? So you can use AI in all aspects of HR. But I think the biggest difference AI can make is the efficiency and time savings that it can bring to any HR BP or any HR leader with using it in a proper way, right? And not just taking it to, take it exactly what it is and put it out there. You have to iterate it. You take the idea and you make it your own. But the idea of saving time would be probably the number one benefit of AI for HR.
Yeah, well, hey, with great power comes great responsibility, right? As
Yeah,
Peter Parker knew
exactly.
himself. Mark, your insights on leadership, culture, and navigating change are incredibly valuable. For other business owners who are struggling with organizational change, building strong teams, or even facing their own critical pivot moments, what's a key piece of advice that you would offer them?
Well, let me be vulnerable for a second here, David, because as an entrepreneur, you have daily challenges, and negative self-talk, limited thinking, overthinking, procrastination, worry, doubt are all your enemies, right? So that happens just, and we talked about credibility a few times. I'm not worthy of the audience or the opportunity, right? Stop, right? Stop thinking that way. So for me, the four areas that are the biggest challenges being an entrepreneur are activity management. I'll explain these really quickly. Discipline, resilience, and resources. So in addition to my unrelenting optimism that I've explained as my superpower, I also bring high bias for action. In fact, in 22, I got the award for highest bias for action at AWS. The desire to get things done, right? Just to bring things to completion. Then I couple EQ, a high level of EQ, emotional intelligence, with low DQ, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then the ability to enable, inspire, motivate others, being resourceful, being accountable, using common sense, and strategic problem solving or creative problem solving are the superpowers that I bring. But activity management is a challenge. It's another descriptor for time management, David, but you got to realize we don't manage time. Time's a constant. So what we do manage is our activity and intention every day. So to enhance your activity management, work in blocks of time, no more than 90 minutes. Take short breaks after each one to refocus and rejuvenate yourself before the next day. So for each new day, get a plan in place. Don't shoot from the hip. Get it on paper. Know what you need to accomplish. Avoid doom scrolling, right? We spend a lot of time on our phones and on our iPads and things. No, stop, right? You do that in blocks of time too, but do it after hours. Handle the big rocks first, right? So you can't get the big rocks in unless you handle those first. Apply focus and effort towards the completion of the current projects before moving on to the next. So this requires you to define and manage your personal and professional distractions throughout the day to stay on course. So activity management is critical and you need to master that, right? The second is discipline. And let's face it, discipline is the hardest human behavior trait to master, because the problem with being very disciplined is it takes sacrifice and consistency, two things that we typically lack in human behavior. So to stay the course, you have to avoid those many distractions. You have to make progress for whatever written professional goals you have each and every day. Then resilience is a close second to discipline, because you must not allow other people's opinions, setbacks that you experience, to destroy your momentum. I'm a victim of that. I'm first to raise my hand. When someone says, oh, that doesn't sound good or that sucks, I stop. I'm like, oh, you're right. I shouldn't do this. And I learned fairly recently, over the last year, to not allow other people's criticism or opinions to deter my passion. So there's plenty of critics out there. You have to have the courage and resilience to keep moving forward. And then resources, like we talked about a little bit ago, are incredibly important to you, but to your business, to scaling your business. So align with people that make your journey easier. Use their subject matter expertise to grow your business. So those are kind of some of the, I guess, the valleys, if you will, that I experience to get some of the peaks, right? So that's, I guess, the best way I can answer that is, just being vulnerable and letting you in on how I think and why that's important.
Truly sound insight. Mark, thank you so much for sharing your journey and wisdom with us today. For our listeners who want to learn more about Performance Mindset Associates, your GNC framework, or to connect with you, what would be the best way for them to find you or your resources?
Yeah, so www.performancemindset.co is my website. mark@performancemindset.co is my email. And I'm based in Florida, so Eastern Standard Time. But again, I'm available to connect for even just a 15-minute intro call, which is great at any time. Monday through Friday is fine.
Thanks again for joining us on The Growth Shift.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap on another episode of The Growth Shift. If this conversation sparked something for you, whether it's a new perspective on failure, a strategy you want to try, or just the reminder that every setback can become a setup for something bigger, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who shift strategically through it. If you're ready to build the systems that help you grow without the chaos, head over to valentix.io. We help businesses like yours scale smarter, not harder. I'm David Zylstra, and I'll see you in the next shift.